NorCal. 209 King of Comedy. It's Rick without the K. James presents, in my opinion, podcast.
Let me ask you this question, Natasha.
Yeah.
Why do you think nutrition is not a big part of medicine or training?
Oh, that's a really good question. It should
Rick
be.
provided it.
It should be. Spoken like a true healthcare provider. It should be, because it's at the basis of health. You don't got good nutrition, you're not going to be healthy at all. I don't think that it is part of medicine, because I'm gonna throw the healthcare system under the bus again.
How much training do they give you guys as doctors when it comes to nutrition?
Very little.
Like maybe a semester? Maybe one class?
I can speak from my own experience only, where I trained in medical school and training right now as a resident. Very little. I wish there was more.
Okay.
Other people might feel different. Other people might be like, damn, we learned too much about nutrition. But I think nutrition is so important. I see so many, unfortunately, like fat kids, that I think that we should have more training.
What are their names?
Rick James.
Rick James.
I think I brought up nutrition because myself. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. But sorry, my brain's going 40 million miles an hour. I brought it up because about 12, 13 years ago, I went in, got my labs done, and my cholesterol levels were high. Doctor wanted to put me on some shit, and I called my dad, and my dad's like, they're barely above what they should be.
Yeah.
He goes, did your doctor ask you what you were eating? If you were exercising, any of that shit?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And he goes, well, then fuck your doctor.
Yeah.
Right.
Change your diet first.
Yeah.
Go back, get your labs done again in 90 days. And if shit hasn't, then get on the medication.
Yeah.
He goes, but it's real premature right now. And it just brought me to that point where I was like, man, it's easier just to give me medicine than it is to sit down and talk to me and be like, hey, man, are you eating tacos for fucking breakfast, motherfucker?
The answer was yes.
We get
at that point in my life, it was, right? So
See, that's why other Latino comics don't want you on their show, man. You're using their material. Tacos at breakfast? That's my closer. That's my closer, bro.
That's my closer. So
at breakfast.
I just realized, like, man, and not right now because I'm not got that extra COVID weight right now. But normally I've cut out a lot of shit, and my health has been the best it's been in the last 5 years.
Good for you.
Right? I was a little fatter than I was right now, and that's probably the divorce diet, right? So, but I look at shit like that, and I'm like, man, how come? And then learning how to eat healthier and do certain things is you might think you know what healthy is. It says fat free. It says this, and then you start reading shit.
It's confusing. Just like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I think it's made to be confusing.
It was deliberate.
But
it was deliberate.
I think it's totally deliberate. But I think when you come to your doctor and you're like, hey, doc, because I'm pretty sure because you're a pediatrician, you have these kids that come in and like one of the things that most people don't know is you're like, well, it's breakfast. Give your kid juice. What kind of juice are you giving the kid?
Shouldn't be giving your kid juice at all.
Because if it's the juice that most people give, it has more sugar in it than a Coca-Cola. Like it's not fucking healthy. Just because it says apple juice doesn't mean it's really apple juice. Right.
I think the problem is with kids, especially like kids cannot buy their own stuff. Obviously, right?
Yes.
They eat whatever's in their house. They eat basically their parents' diet. And unfortunately, around the areas where I work in some federally qualified health centers. So health centers servicing Medicaid, Medi-Cal patients. It is expensive to eat healthy.
It is.
Palo Alto Tech people, it's fine. You can go on a vegan diet. You can eat all of these supplements and vitamins and all of that. That's expensive as fuck. And it's hard to counsel families on how to eat healthy when they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
It's real hard. And you got to be real motivated as a parent. And I don't blame them when they come home from work and they're exhausted. And they can't,
eat a Hot Pocket.
Exactly. I don't blame them.
Do you think that there's a remedy for that?
Do I think that there's a remedy? Government has to get their shit together and pitch in more and not forget about the little people who are not making the big bucks,
And when you say pitch in more, what does that mean?
I think more nutrition in school programs and more school meals when schools are out of session.
Let me ask you this, because we're talking about being overweight, okay? And I don't mean to point to you when I said that. Sorry. No, we're talking about being overweight.
Freudian slip.
Let me drink this sugary ass.
Do you
fucking
now? I know people all over the world are overweight for many different reasons. It's not just because they just love Hot Pockets. I know it's like for other reasons, right? But do you think that living in a culture where body shaming is frowned upon, do you think that can often interfere with being honest with somebody and telling them, look, you're fat and you have to stop being fat? Do you think that we should encourage more honesty in terms of telling people, no, it's like you don't have an issue, you're just making terrible fucking choices, and you refuse to nurture your body the way you're supposed to?
You're saying like, is tough love better? And because this society,
well, not tough love, honesty.
Yeah, I think. I don't know if I'm right here, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Go for it.
Anyone who's been like overweight, I think fat people know when they're fat. I don't think you need someone to look at you and be like, "Hey, you're fat. Sorry."
Right.
I think they know.
No, I'm not questioning whether they know. Like, we all know. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're around a fat person, like you know they know, and they know you know. But what I'm saying though is that don't we need a little more direct, addressing it directly, as opposed to nurturing like the way that people feel? Because the way you feel might not match the way that your body is actually, existing. Like, your body needs your help,
and then
but you feel like you need nurture.
On the same lines, the way you look may not reflect your health.
Exactly. And
you might be overweight.
Skinny.
Your BMI might be high,
skinny
but
fat.
you might be super, super healthy.
Right.
Your good cholesterol might be through the roof, and your bad cholesterol might be really low, but you're still overweight based on our standards.
Right.
So I think that instead of like focusing on fatness per se, you should focus on health. Like, are you just sitting in front of a TV playing your PS5 all day, or are you actually getting out there and hiking?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
But I think you made a good point though. Is some of these programs have been built that way, especially as kids. Like now, I think that they're veering away from. I know when I went to school, man, I couldn't wait for, it's Pizza Friday, and we got Tater Tot Tuesday, and we got, like, they was just giving us this nasty ass shit that isn't even
They're still
nutrition.
giving kids nasty ass shit.
But I think they're veering away from it a little bit. But I think, we should have nutrition, at least in high school. At least someone who's old enough to understand it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we should have that. And then I feel like even physical education, They've cut those programs nowadays.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, most kids don't even have PE class like we did. You know what I mean?
They don't have to run the mile.
They don't have music. Yeah.
I remember running the mile when I was in school.
I used to try to. That's when I was like, if you see my kids, man. Well, you did, right? During the competition, my kids were there, and they're both skinny as fuck, and that's the way I used to be when I was a teenager. But I see the way my kids eat now. Like my son, because he's working 10 hours a day. My oldest. It's Doritos and a sandwich and 4 or 5 different snacks where I don't really tell him shit because I know he's probably underweight for what he is. He's probably got like a 26 waist or some shit.
But once that metabolism slows down.
But I tell him, I'm like, watch, you're still part of my genes, stupid. Like one taco is going to feel like 5 soon enough, right? So you got to watch out where, I just feel like, especially being Latino, right?
We have terribly unhealthy food.
You're preaching the choir.
Delicious,
you heard about
right?
Filipino food?
We don't have the same shit, right? Because my girl, where I tell her right now, we're trying to figure out a new diet plan too. Where I was like, look, man, if you cut out potatoes, tortillas, rice, pasta,
what do you have left?
Right.
And she'll make that comment like, well, then what are we gonna eat? Just grass? And I'm like, there's still vegetables and meat and shit.
I love how people always go to grass. I'm like, no, there's like other shit that grows in the dirt, man. It's not just grass.
So I'm like, but I can tell you and if you don't eat that way, man, and when you start to, you feel like shit for about a week. But that second week, bro, your synapses are working in your brain, like they're just firing, like you feel like you're a fucking superhero. You're like, man, where did I get all this energy from?
Yeah.
Like if you like if they taught us how to intermediate fast, because as human beings, man, we didn't eat like this, hundreds of years ago. We didn't have a fucking Jack in the Box on every corner. We had to go hunt our food and shit. So there was a time where our body was like, man, we've got to store this energy and then use it later, right? So I just tell people, if you kind of cut out those few things and you intermediate fast, bro, I know for me, I'll drop 10 pounds in 10 days. You know what I mean?
I think a big part is exactly what you're saying. You're talking about eating. Like people are focused on what you're eating or what you're not eating. People are not focused on like what you're doing. You could have the best diet, but you could just like sit on the couch and play video games all day. You're not going to be healthy.
But I think,
you know what I mean?
I personally, and again, I believe it's like 80% diet, 20% fucking exercise.
I think it's a little bit more even.
You think it's 50-50?
Maybe not 50-50, but I think it's more even than 80-20 for sure.
Okay.
I would think that
what gets
50-50
the higher percentage? Can we at least agree it's diet?
Diet, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I would think that you would want. I mean, if neither, like, if you guys don't know the percentages, like, why wouldn't you just want to split it 50-50? I feel like that would be just like a good compromise to start with. You know,
She just wants to keep eating what he wants to eat.
No, I'm just saying though, like, if you don't, because that's what I do. I mean, I focus
Why
on
can't we
50-50.
just all be friends?
No. I mean, I'm not looking for forever. You're like all compromises, but like if you don't know what the percentage is, I would advise anybody. Like neither one of us are nutritionists, right? So if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey man, do you think I should focus like on my diet or on exercise?" I'd be like, "Well, dude, I don't know. So you should probably focus on both of them." You know what I'm saying? Because they both seem like a good idea. So you should give both of them an equal amount of importance.
I tell people what's worked for me is, and then I go on. And because
that's
I
fair,
understand
that's
that
fair, yeah.
it's going to work different for everybody.
But if they don't know,
because I understand, like, one
I don't know.
of the things that helps you lose weight
Have you tried
is
being on a really hard exercise regimen? Has that?
Yeah.
Has that been done?
yeah.
And it hasn't worked?
Sometimes
or what
you
is
got to know me that I'm like 0 to 100 like all the time. So it's hurt me in the fact that sometimes I over exercise. So you can't do that neither. So if you're that person like me that goes into the gym and does an hour and a half, but I'm working out every minute of that hour and a half, putting on as much weight, running a fucking a 6-minute mile at 40 years old, you know what I mean? Like and then if you look at me like I haven't been exercising that way because of the back injury or whatever. But up until then, I mean, I have my hoodie on. I've got a beanie on. I'm sweating extra. I'm getting it. I don't go to the gym to go and look at and take pictures on Instagram and do all that dumb shit. I'm getting it. So I believe you can
And
also.
if you did that regularly, wouldn't you think it will work for you too? And then you could say diet and exercise worked for me.
I think the fact that I was doing that first and then I started eating better and that made a bigger difference for me.
Right.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
the dieting worked
Yeah.
better because of the food that I was putting in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
That's fair.
I'd go and do the same regiment and then leave and go eat a double bacon cheeseburger.
Don't mess with Rick when he's
So-
in the gym.
For real, huh? and also, shouldn't we consider like some people just have to accept the fact that like you're not going to be ripped? Like maybe that's just not in your DNA. Maybe you're just not meant. Your body's not going to look the way
Maybe
that
you're meant to have a dad bod.
you know. Seriously, but to your point that you were making earlier, just because you don't look like the guy who's on the cover of Men's Journal doesn't mean that you're unhealthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So you could look a certain way and be like, no, but I feel great. I'm flexible. I'm healthy. I just don't have pecs and I just don't have a 6-pack, and that's valid too. So maybe it's like a combination of trying to encourage people. American culture should be pushed in a certain direction, in my opinion. Number one, stop chasing vanity, because not everybody's gonna be a fucking swimsuit model or a fucking men's journal model. And number two, stop gorging yourself with like just terrible food. Because like we encourage people to eat terrible shit in this country.
I think one of the reasons I brought it up though is the company I work for. We talk about preventative health care. That's why we're the best company.
That's your
here.
company.
Yeah. That's our big spiel is preventative health care.
And you think it's all bullshit?
Yeah, because if it was preventative health care, your doctor would have a nutritionist for you and be trying to figure that out. And I say that because on the other flip side of this, bro, my healthcare, because I'm ordered to have it, when I've had jobs in the past, for me and one kid cost $800 a month. How is that fucking affordable healthcare, man? Right.
That's what I talked about. It's expensive being healthy in this country.
I'm like, fuck it, man. I don't have healthcare right now because the company I work for, because it's all union and shit, I haven't gotten a benefited position yet. So they'll work me, especially through this COVID, they'll work me fucking 40 hours a week, but fuck your benefits. You know what I mean? We'll go ahead and tell you and mandate this vaccine, but if you get fucked over for this vaccine, sorry, we don't offer you any fucking health care. Where that's, you know what I mean? So there's levels to this shit. So I just look at it like this, where I'm like, man, I just believe if we focused on nutrition a little bit more and trying to get everybody healthier, maybe it'll bring down the cost of everything.
Oh yeah, 100%. We agree 100% on that. I don't think it's no one in America does that. Yeah. Not even here in like ultra healthy California.
But I think maybe I bring it to light because there's other societies in the world that does that. I want to say like Japan, like they do their employees where they bring them in and they make sure that they're eating and doing so that way they can give them a better price on their health care too. Like, hey, where I feel like, you know what I mean? Like if it was affecting your pocketbook and you knew, like, shit, if I stop smoking, I get a $50 discount every month. And if I do, you know, and
like incentives.
And so,
But see, you mentioned Japan, and I just want to only because I want to bring this back to fat shaming. You know, seriously, it's a cultural issue. Like it's something that's not tangible. It's a cultural issue. It's outside of the realm of the medicinal world. It's outside of the realm of like things that you could see on a piece of paper. In America, we deliberately tell people that it's wrong to tell people that they're not healthy. And we call it shaming. And we do that deliberately because at the end of the day, the sicker that people are, the more money there is to be made. So I
don't think that's the reason though. I think for some people, they tell you not to shame because they also are invested in people's mental health. Like other doctors, psychiatrists, or psychologists, like you got to think about physical health and mental health. If you got an obese kid and this kid feels so shitty that he cannot lose the weight that he goes and hangs himself.
No, that's terrible.
Where are you at?
That's terrible,
you know?
but that's terrible. But I would also be willing
have to be a pretty strong rope.
Yeah, right. and that's fucking terrible. But I'm willing to bet. Well, you got to get an industrial rope and shit. Double knot that shit. By the time you hang yourself, you're gonna be so proud of your accomplishment of the fat ass knot you made. You're like, you know what? I should go work at the docks. No, but you're absolutely right. But I also would like suggest like that's probably a very small percentage of the situations that actually like unfold that way. I would be willing to bet that the grand majority of situations are just a lot of people that are coddled, and they're raised in a culture where coddling is encouraged, and that coddling leads to a lack of taking care of yourself and a lack of actually being conscious of what you're doing to yourself.
Lack of being held accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what I'm saying. It's a cultural issue. It's not tangible. You can't really see it or touch it, but it is happening. And we need to discourage it. That's why the question I asked you earlier about body shaming. Do you think it's helping or hurting? I think it's hurting. The fact that we're encouraging this idea that you should never tell anybody that they look bad. Let me tell you something. If I have a friend, I have friends. And I know that.
Everyone to know that he has friends.
I have friends, and when they're getting fat, I tell them, bro, you are getting fat.
You don't think they know that?
No, that's good that they know that. But somebody needs to be in their ear to tell them, like, why do you think Zoom, like a training on Zoom or people like pay for classes to work out? Why do you think that works so much? Because it's dope. Because it's very helpful to have somebody encouraging you or telling you what's going on. Yeah. You could just sit at home and do it yourself, but you won't. But it's different when you have somebody encouraging you. So as a friend, I go to my good friends. I'm like, hey, homie, check this out. You're getting fat. This is not healthy for you. Is there something going on? And if there isn't something medically going on, then I'm just here to remind you that you're getting fat. And this is not going to bode well for you in the long run.
Yeah, whatever you did to get here, do it in reverse.
Step it back.
I think it's like honesty out of love, But nowadays in our culture, honesty is perceived as shaming or hateful.
Sometimes it is.
Yes,
you know?
but it's the very small it's the very small amount of times that somebody's going to go ahead and hang themselves, which is always terrible.
Yeah,
100% of the time it's always terrible. But it's I would be willing to bet that it's a much smaller percentage of situations that unfold that way versus a situation where somebody's just going to be like, damn man, my homie's right, I am becoming a fat piece of shit and I know why, so let me do something about it.
I think you were just raised Latino and that's the way we deal with shit, bro.
I was going to say, I think it's cultural. Like,
no, it's definitely cultural.
Like,
white people shit is giving kids participation trophies. You don't get that in Filipino families.
Right.
My dad would have been like, you guys lost because you guys suck.
Yeah, you lost because you suck. And you should, and that's how it should be, you know what I'm saying? Because, you don't want people thinking that they're better than what they actually are. Like, if you love somebody, you don't want them to be delusional like that. You want them to understand, like, no, you're not good at this. Get better. If you love them. If you don't love them, they be like, all right, fucking go ahead and think that you're, the best at this because you're terrible.
Boy, Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Please hit the subscribe button down low so you can see all new clips, all new episodes coming to you.